My name is Nicole Pesky, and I'm the Communications Director for the North Dakota Department of Transportation. I'm super excited this morning to introduce Jess to you. Jess Newby is the Governance, Risk, Compliance Lead for the North Dakota Department for North Dakota Information Technology. So Jessica leads a team of information security officers who ensure the integrity and the availability of the state's information assets. So we were just discussing lots and lots of scary cyber stuff down here, so you guys are in for a treat. So her team collaborates with state agencies and local entities to identify and mitigate information security risks and to ensure compliance with regulatory requirements. So thanks a bunch for being here, Jess. Help me welcome to the stage, Jess Newby.
Are we working? Can you guys hear me? Kind of, maybe, not really. Oh. How about this one? No? We did, we just tested it. We had it all ready to go. I know. Well, while we work on that, I'll ask you guys a couple of warm-up questions. How about that? How many of you are here for a cybersecurity discussion? Good. How many of you are with the state or a state agency? How many are you cities, counties, local jurisdictions? Okay, listen up, I have money for you. Other quasi-governmental entities? Anybody? No? Okay. And any private sector in the audience? Okay, good to know. How many of you have ever received a phishing email? How about a real phishing email, not a simulated one? How about anything worse than that? No? How many of you think that a cybersecurity attack could never happen to you? How many of you went down to the trade show, to the vendors, and picked up one of the little USB drives? They lay out on the table. Anybody? Okay. So I actually walked through this morning and looked, and I didn't see any laying out, so that was a good sign. A lot of times vendors like to give out USB drives, and I know we talk about USB drives and how bad they are, and I'm going to have a slide on that later. But the biggest issue at trade shows like this is when they have those on the table. I can go through, pick up one, take it home, weaponize it, bring it back tomorrow, toss it back on the table, and you unwittingly pick it up. And so you can set things to execute as soon as you stick it in your computer, have it take off and put malware on your device pretty readily. And it's pretty easy to social engineer your way into these types of events. So bad guys like to target, especially big cities, go to big events, go to lots of things. You can go to a conference center and knock out lots of events in a day. If you just wear one of these things around your neck, they tend to let you walk around wherever you want to go. There's not a lot of security around it, so just keep that in mind for the future. A little bit about me and my team and our entire security team. So I am with the NDIT with the state of North Dakota. I have been serving in the role as the Information Security Officer for the Department of Transportation for about 3 years now. I also work very closely with cities and counties. So just kind of across the state of North Dakota, a lot of stakeholders. Our team is made up of our Cyber Operations Center, which is our analysis response, active defense, and our security infrastructure team. So our analysis and response team, these are the people who do incident response. So if you happen to pick up that flash drive and put it in your computer and you did something bad, those are the guys who are going to call you. Our active defense team, these are the ones who are out there doing penetration testing, they're doing threat intelligence, they're doing all of this different work to keep us safe. And our infrastructure team are the ones who are actually deploying our tool sets out to all of our endpoints across the state. And when I say across the state, we really work on our whole of state approach to cybersecurity. So we want an integrated approach with cities and counties as well as state agencies. Cities and counties aren't required to use our services, but we do provide a lot of our products at no cost to them. And then on my side of the house is the governance, risk, and compliance. So this is our cyber risk management, our policies, procedures, and standards, our information security officers, all of our compliance to audit requirements. Believe it or not, DOT has lots of audit requirements. And then events like this, our education, public awareness, our Indy Defend page, and all the things we do to reach out across the state. So let's talk a little bit about the threat environment. First stat I have for you is 83% of breaches, attacks happen from external actors. So inside threats are still there, insiders that could do something malicious, but most of what we see comes from the outside. 74% of breaches are involving the human element. So this is social engineering, misuse, errors, those kinds of things. And 50% of all social engineering attacks are pre-texting incidents. This has doubled since last year. Pre-texting is a targeted approach to social engineering where people use a story, they use a human element. You may have seen on your personal cell phone, I get a lot of text messages, your package has arrived, or you need to do this to get your package. These are all pre-texting types of events. They tell you a story to get you off guard, to play on, your emotions, to get you to respond and to do whatever the actor's asking you to do. A common one that happens is a pop-up comes up on your screen and says your computer has been compromised, and to please call this phone number or go to this link to get support to fix your computer. Don't click those links. If you have a concern with anything on your computer, at home, at work, your personal cell phone, it doesn't matter, don't click it. Go to your trusted sources. Those links are almost always a screen connect type of device that would let the bad guy have access to your computer and do bad things. So what are we seeing out there in the world? We all hear a lot about ransomware. So ransomware attacks are these large-scale attacks that happen. In the bottom corner over there is a picture of one type of screen that pops up when there's ransomware types of events that take place. Just an example. These are some broad headlines from across news organizations about different cyber attacks. And I pulled out a couple specific ones just to kind of highlight the local and recent events that have taken place and how these different attacks happen. So these are just some of the ones that are more recent. Some are transportation specific. In the bottom corner is the piece on the SamSam virus. This hit Colorado Department of Transportation back in 2020. They thought they had remediated the system. They didn't pay the ransom. They stood their systems back up and they got ransomware for a second time. In the end, they took down 2,000 devices and rebuilt a ton of their infrastructure in order to be able to recover from that particular event. SEPTA was the public transportation system for Philadelphia. They had a ransomware event that took them down. This was back in 2001, I believe. In addition to losing payroll, timekeeping, and real-time schedules, their systems were down. This was in August. They were still down in October. So they were still recovering their systems from that attack. So what type of attacks are they doing? The two most common of what they're actually doing once they reach into a system is ransomware and business email compromise. We talk a lot about these, but we don't really define what they mean or why they're important to you. So the first one we'll talk about is ransomware. Ransomware, there's kind of two different types. There's the traditional ransomware. This is where the attacker comes in, they get control of the system, and they encrypt it. So now they block you from access to your information, your systems. The second type is extortion. They don't necessarily encrypt your systems, but they steal your data and they hold your data for ransom. If you pay us, we'll give it back. And then there's double extortion. They do both. They lock down your systems as well as they steal your data, and then they hold it for ransom, to get it returned. So the other piece I was talking about as a common compromise technique is business email compromise. This again is more sophisticated as far as trying to gain trust. This starts as an email to a user. Sometimes these organizations compromise other users and steal their email, and they might be replying in thread to a previous conversation that you've had with another individual. And so they're starting up this new thread on the same topic, and they're, gaining your trust, getting you to understand over days and weeks that they are who they say they are, and then at the end they, I need to do a change to an ACH number, or we need to have some money wired, or some type of financial situation. How do people get in? So the key pieces are phishing and software vulnerabilities. And then there's also a separate call out of social engineering. So if we look back at these headlines, MoveIt, the top, that vulnerability was a compromise that was found by attackers. MoveIt was made aware of this after it was already being attacked by all of these groups. And so they worked to patch it over the course. I think they put out 6 patches over 3 weeks and left people in a pretty vulnerable state. Uber, that was a social engineering attack, and what was unique about that is they used MFA fatigue, where they rapidly pushed approvals to the user, and finally they had already compromised the company's Slack channel, sent the person a message and said it's only going to stop if you hit approve. So the person approved it and let them in widely into their systems. MGM Resorts, that attack was a phone call social engineering, and they convinced the person on the phone that they were somebody and they had to make some type of change or let them connect and share information. That became I think the estimates in that are close to $1 billion of recovery. Then we, top up here is the Screen Connect from ConnectWise. That new vulnerability was exploited by attackers. The ConnectWise started as a vulnerability that was disclosed through a program the company had set up. So companies set up these disclosure programs to let the good guys voluntarily disclose to them when there is attacks that are known out there, like there's ways to exploit their software. So these are the things that, are going on in our world now. The window of time to patch high-profile vulnerabilities before exploitation takes place is continuing to shrink. There's widespread availability of these attack frameworks, and people are actually hiring off hacking as a service, so nefarious actors hire experts who contract out their services. There's reduced anonymity and increased instability of cryptocurrency, so it's allowing more business compromise. Declining economic conditions are causing more people to go into this type of crime. And then there's also hacktivism and politically motivated attacks. So let's see what one of these looks like. I was just showing you a slide about ConnectWise. This was very, very recent. So as you can see, this was February 20th. And these are all headlines. I don't have much inside ball on this one, so I'm not going to share with you anything that's not publicly known. So ConnectWise urges Screen Connect admins to patch this RCE, remote code execution. One researcher described this flaw as shockingly easy to exploit. So on February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day, the company, through this voluntary disclosure program, was notified they had this vulnerability in their system that somebody found. They worked for a week, developed a patch, and they released the patch on the 19th. On the 20th, this headline hit. On the 22nd, Change Healthcare cyber attack led to prescription delays. Change Healthcare is an entity of United Healthcare, and they run a process called a pharmaceutical switch. So when you go to the pharmacy and you put your prescription in at CVS, it sends it to this clearinghouse, if you will, that then sorts all of these different prescriptions and sends them to the various payers so that their claims can be paid. It sends it, it says this person needs a prescription, they verify that they have coverage, it shoots it back to this Change Healthcare, back to the pharmacy, and it all happens in minutes. This company shut down all of their software when this happened. So they actually were compromised on the 21st. The headline's the 22nd. Oops, I put the wrong button. On the 27th, researchers say a new vulnerability in ConnectWise Screen Connect massively exploited by attackers. On the 29th, ConnectWise exploit could spur ransomware free-for-all, experts warn. On March 1st, Change Healthcare sets up a new electronic prescription service funding programs as cyber attack drags. That was yesterday. Hackers behind healthcare ransomware attack just received $22 million payment in Bitcoin. And today, I had to pull this headline because, we're all intrigued, right? Health providers have said all that Change Healthcare has done to stand this infrastructure back up has been too little. It has not restored services. Their systems are still completely down, and they're asking the feds to now intervene in this cyber outage. So this is something you'll see on the news. This is something you will see if you go to the pharmacy. Screen Connect, the software they use, is commonly used by IT support services to remote into your computer. Variations of this remote connect software is used by attackers frequently. Those little pop-ups I was talking about where they're like, click here, we'll help you remediate your problem on your computer. Don't click those. Make sure it's your trusted people. You know who's connecting to your device. Hang up, if they call you and say they need to connect, hang up, call the number for your service desk, talk to the people, verify who they are, use secondary verification methods. These types of exploits are easy and they're becoming very common. What does it look like in North Dakota? So we have over 4.5 billion threats on StageNet every year. These come from nation-state actors, corporate espionage, and organized crime groups. Our team processes about 50,000 of those events. So our firewalls block most of it, but about 50,000 of those rise to the level of our teams to actually do incident response, investigation, determination, if they're actual real threats. And these are all the different levels. This bug bounty hunter is similar to the disclosure program. Some people weaponize it, and they try to exploit companies to disclose or threaten to publicly disclose vulnerabilities. That is not what happened in Screen Connect. They did work in good faith. It's just it was so easy to exploit, and they got ahead of people so fast. And this is a slide on the average cost of ransomware. So when we talk about the inherent risk of 877 billion, we're talking about the overall, million risk of all the data sources we have out there. So every record that's a non-HIPAA record that could be possibly compromised and lost in a breach has a value of about $288. Every single record. If it contains healthcare or other very highly protected information, that number is closer to $540 per record. So that adds up very quickly if you think about the amount of information that transverses across all of state government. Having tools deployed, governance policies, and trained security teams reduce this risk for us. So why are we targeted? There's the sheer number of local governments, the amount of information that these governmental units have, personally identifiable information, contractual billing, and this data can be held, it can be sold for ransom. It's highly lucrative for these groups. The criminals are very good at what they do, and these tools have become more cost effective, and border defense systems make it a lot easier for these companies to these bad guys to do these breaches. Local governments also operate under financial constraint. Sound familiar to anybody? We don't have unlimited money or tools to do all the things that we'd like to do. So the other piece is training. National statistics that only 38% of state and local government employees are trained on ransomware prevention. I will tell you in the state of North Dakota that number is much higher, but we can still do better. So the things that the bad guys don't want us to do: multi-factor authentication, having endpoint protection, patching systems timely, mitigations for brute force. This is where they do password attacks, where they try to guess your password. That's why we have to have those really long, complex passwords. They're a lot harder to crack. Security alerts, password security, again, weak passwords are a problem, and then system misconfigurations. So what are some best practices? You are the human firewall. Be cyber smart. I can't implore enough, not just in work, at home. Make sure you have all your configurations and protections in place. This website, defend.nd.gov, is a source of a lot of information on being secure online. We have videos on passphrases, those wonderful thumb drives. Think you can't be phished, think again. And then there's even some awareness quizzes. If you have teenagers at home, have them take this. It's probably a little eye-opening, some of the practices and things that they think are probably safe online, but good for all of us to take part in. So I wanted to bring this up and kind of read you this little article that was posted out. And I'm not looking at you, Nicole, but when new people come on, we like to celebrate it and we like to talk about it. So this is Glinda. She's from New England, and she's 2 months into her new job. She's working along with 3 male operators who are each 5th generation. I'm not telling you the state because it's not North Dakota. Glinda started her career as a gunner mate working on an aircraft carrier in the late 1980s. She worked in the Portsmouth Naval Yard in Virginia in the Department of Defense before she moved to Kings Bay, Georgia, and worked on Trident submarines. Her husband worked for Delta Airlines, and their daughter is a college student, and they really enjoyed camping. They lived in a yurt while their house was being rebuilt. And it goes on into a lot of personal information about Glinda. When this amount of information is out there, it makes the job for the attackers a lot easier because they now have a lot of personal information. They can send targeted emails. They can build trust because Glinda thinks they must know her when they bring this kind of information. Most articles don't contain that much information, but they often contain things like where somebody went to college, what their background is, the city they may have moved from, previous jobs, those kinds of things. So just be aware of information we put out, also information that we share on like social media, LinkedIn. Anybody ever got unsolicited emails from vendors on their email and wondered how they got a hold of you? Came from LinkedIn. Passwords I already kind of touched on. We want to make those passwords long and strong. Upper, lowercase, special characters, 15-character passwords. Don't use dictionary words. Those are common words that we use every day. Football, carpet, whatever. Those are easy to guess, easy to crack. I think we are looking, though, towards a passwordless future. There's products like Windows Hello, biometrics, fingerprints, eye scans, and passkeys that are stored on cell phones. Doing away with passwords, we'll never completely get rid of them. But reducing the number of passwords we use in day-to-day will make us more secure, because a lot of compromise happens from phishing campaigns where somebody gets a hold of passwords as part of those. Multi-factor authentication. Who loves multi-factor authentication? I know a lot of people feel like it makes life hard. Use it anytime you can. Anytime your bank offers it, anybody. Make sure you enable multi-factor authentication. My favorite example to use is your ATM card. If you go to the bank and you put your card in the little ATM, what's it ask you for? A PIN. So it's something you have, your physical card, something you know, your PIN number. Would you feel secure going to the bank and just putting in a PIN code and it spits out your money? Or how would you feel if you just had the card and anybody could pick it up and go to the bank and take your money? So that's kind of a way of looking at multi-factor authentication. We recently had a wide-scale phishing attack. It went out, I think by the end of the day, about 5,000 users received phishing emails. And we had a number of users that got compromised, continue to spread it. All the users that got compromised didn't have multi-factor. The reason is when they get your passwords and your from those credential harvesters, they have to get past that MFA step. We went further and implemented a numeric code-based multi-factor. The reason, like I was talking about with the Uber attack and MFA fatigue. Now, in order for you to authenticate, you have to be in front of the device and have the number to type into the phone in order to do the authentication. And that prevents those MFA bypass or fatigue attacks. My favorite slide on USB drives. Please don't pick up random USB drives off the ground and put them in your computer. Please don't do that. I was speaking at an event back in October, and one of the speakers came in, and the person who was managing all the IT said, "Can I have your flash drive?" And the person said, "You don't want my flash drive. I brought my own computer." And they went, no, we have it all set up. Please give me the flash drive. And she said, "I have active malware that I'm going to demonstrate in this." And I'm like, I am not going after her and putting my flash drive in that computer. So you don't know where or what. So for things like this event, I use single-use flash drives. One time, destroy it afterwards. Because no offense, I'm sure this computer's great, but I don't know who's been here before me or what else might be on it. And they may wipe it at the end of each day, but that doesn't mean something else hasn't infected it, so. Oops. QR codes. How many of you picked up the little guide to the meeting today? There's a QR code on there, it gets more information. QR codes are everywhere. If you grab your little guide and you look at it and rub your hand over it, make sure there's no sticker that's sticking over the QR code. It's very, very easy for bad guys to take stickers and cover those on the tables at restaurants or all kinds of places. And oh, look, I can just pay for my dinner at my table. How convenient. Until you scan it, it belongs to an attacker. They deliver you an amount, you pay them, and it wasn't the restaurant, and now your money's gone. So they can be weaponized and used in lots of ways. They're everywhere. They're not going away. But check them. Make sure it's actually like, somebody hasn't covered it over with a different sticker. That just like you would a link, when you start to scan it, look to see what it is and where it directs you. If you can avoid using them, please avoid using them. This is an example of an actual email that went out to a user, and it contained a QR code at the bottom, and it said, "This is a update needed to your Authenticator app." This looks like a genuine, legit email from Microsoft. Yes, it would have a yellow banner because Microsoft is an outside organization. So everything about it looks legit. That's a close-up of the QR code that I did blur so that you can't scan it. If you click it, it takes you to this, which looks like a very legit Microsoft login page. This is a cred harvester that belongs to a bad guy. When you type in your username and passwords, it takes you nowhere, but now they have your information. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to your email, and they are going to find out what other things that you have been going to and visiting, because the chances are you're probably using the same password on all your accounts, and they know that. So they're going to look for your bank account, they're going to look for FedEx, they're going to look for Amazon, they're going to look for all those things, and they're going to know right where they can go and take over more accounts, buy things on your dime, all kinds of fun things the bad guys like to do. Account takeovers, they'll go and change your password. Now you can't get in and they have control. So always be very leery of things that come that look like that. Like I said, if ever in doubt, report it, call the help desk, ask your IT people. You can't be too careful because the bad guys are always putting out very legitimate looking things trying to get us to interact with them. If you're not a state agency already, make sure your website is a .gov. That's another piece of giving citizens an understanding that this is a legitimate site. .gov sites can't be spoofed. They can't be hijacked. They have protections around them. So this is another way that you can help be the source of truth. And then the most important, have a cybersecurity incident response plan. Who are you going to call? Like I said, when something pops up and says you have a virus on your computer, what is your response supposed to be? It's not click the link or call the number. You need to go to your plan and know who it is that you're supposed to talk to, who's going to be there to help you in that event. This is an example of a more in-depth plan of actual going through scenarios. It's good exercise though for staff to have a better understanding of like what to do in different scenarios, what's normal, what's abnormal, what should I report in case people have questions. And then you can always report incidents to the state. So we have forms out on our website, ndit.indy.gov. There's a reporting link there. If you click on there that it's an emergency and you need help, that will page our team 24/7. There's also the SLIC. They're out there to provide services. This is the North Dakota State and Local Intelligence Center, and again, this is for anybody across the state. They're always here to assist and provide support. So for our county participants and cities, there's grant funding out there from CISA. I'm not going to go into great detail, but there is cyber-specific grants that have been put out. So this year we're looking at $300 million that goes to locals. So it's not funding, it goes to the state. There are match requirements on the right and some requirements around it, but we'll be putting out notice applications for the funding. So be on the lookout for that money. There's a couple of different pieces of how the money can be used and the different elements and services, but it's a great program and it's out there to help build up the cybersecurity across the state. And $300 million is North Dakota's share for the state. And this is some of their best practices that be put in place related to some of the funding. I'm going to go through one more example of what a phishing attack looks like and what to look for. So this was an actual phishing attack. This went out. This looks very similar to the ones we were just dealing with recently. So this email went out. It's has a banner on it, says it's from the outside, and past due invoice, has an attachment, came from a K-12, went to a K-12. Some red flags. Social engineering is an attack that uses email. They're trying to get you to click on the malicious link. They're trying to get you to give your password, open the infected attachments. They're very convincing. These are not your, you won the foreign lottery, click here to collect your money kind of schemes. These are meant to look like legitimate real emails. So you want to look at who's it from. Is that somebody you normally communicate to? Is it addressed to you, or is it addressed to a group, or is it a blind CC? Hyperlinks. When did the email come in? Is it normal that you'd get an email from somebody at 4 a.m.? What's the subject? Do you usually get attachments? And then what are the content? So if we look at this, overdue. So overdue is meant to elicit a reaction. Oh, I missed something. I didn't respond to this. It went from and to the same address, same email address. I know I blurred it for person's privacy, but if somebody's sending you an email to tell you there's an invoice that's past due, they're not blind CCing a group of people. They would be sending that email to you. Please don't hesitate to contact us. Anybody want to tell me what the contact number is? Or the person's name you're supposed to contact? So those are some of the pieces to look out for when you have phishing emails. When's it coming in? I think there's also, this one came in at 9:40 in the morning. But these, like I said, 3 in the morning, those kinds of things. So just be on guard. If you have a question, reach out to the person, look them up, find their phone number, call them, and find out from them. So some of the other programs, again, this is going to be for our counties, cities. is cyber liability and data breach coverage. This is through NDERF. We have a partnership with NDERF. If you take our tools that we offer at no cost, then they provide a discount of 4% on general liability coverage for all of the entities across the state. So this is just a belief that, you know, we're better off as one. So it's our whole estate, one cybersecurity initiative with NDERF. The tools that we provide are cyber maturity assessments. This is our way of evaluating what controls are in place and what additional things that could be done to improve one's cybersecurity posture. This is also a great tool to determine what you might want to apply for grant funds for. We also offer a set of tools, Tenable, KnowBe4, Hack Notice, and Cortex XDR. Cortex XDR is our endpoint protection. This is the piece that scans the device, helps us determine if any malware takes place on the device, if it scans emails in real time, and provides all those protections, and it's available across Windows, Mac, Chromebooks. Tenable, this is a vulnerability scanning to determine if you have vulnerabilities like that Screen Connect Wise I was talking about earlier. This will detect all the devices that are vulnerable so they can be patched. This is what a dashboard looks like of what vulnerabilities are remaining, what's been patched, what's still outstanding. Everything in the green is good, everything in the red needs to be fixed. When somebody has our tools installed, our mean time to respond to an incident is about 15 minutes to 3 hours. If they're just on the state network, it's 24 to 72 hours. And if we have no visibility, it could be 5 days or never. So this greatly allows us to respond to incidents at a much more rapid pace. And then finally is KnowBe4. Many of you are probably familiar with KnowBe4 already. This is what we use both for our simulated phishing and for our quarterly training that all state employees take. So this is a little bit about our training that is required of all state employees, but also what we recommend across to other entities that participate. And then the last topic I'm just going to touch on is generative AI. How many of you are using AI, excited about AI, concerned about AI? Okay, so generative AI is just one area. AI is a broad term. It's kind of being used like, you know, we call it the Google, we call it the AI. It's like this collective term of how we use it now. But generative AI is really like Google on steroids. It's using a machine learning model that's taking up all the information and is giving you more detailed, specific responses. I had fun with it. I decided one night I would show my husband up on baseball stats. So I used ChatGPT to generate some baseball stats. I don't recommend that. It's not very accurate. So it's a great tool if you're a subject matter expert in something and you can determine if the output is accurate. But I'm sure you've all heard of lots of cases where people have used it and it's not very accurate in what its output. Because again, it's combing vast amounts of information across the internet, which is not always the most reliable source. In my work, I build a lot of policies and a lot of frameworks. It's fantastic for that. It can give me, I tell it I want a certain regulatory framework and I want a policy based on a specific topic, and it just builds out a baseline for me quickly, easily, and then we add our own pieces to it. What it's not is the Terminator and all these other. So my takeaways is don't use sensitive information, of course. Don't ever put any information you wouldn't want to make publicly available into any type of third-party site or anything. I mean, if you aren't willing to put it on the front page of your website, don't put it on anything in the internet. Don't over-rely on it for writing tasks. Know what your goals are. Don't use it when you're rushing to meet deadlines. Don't presume privacy or security. There is no promise that anything you put in there is going to be held. And again, be the subject matter expert. Know that, you know, it may be not the most accurate or reliable information, especially if you're looking at baseball stats. And then make sure you follow any policies at work. You guys have any questions for me? Crash course of cybersecurity. If not, this is how you can reach me. So if you think of any questions or anything comes up or there's things you don't want to talk about out loud but you would like to discuss separately, that's how you can reach me. It's a very good question. So most of the ransomware attacks come from foreign adversaries overseas, so it's very difficult. There was a prolific ransomware group that just had a recent attack, and the State Department put a $10 million bounty on information that leads to the arrest, and another $5 million if they're prosecuted. So there certainly is attempts, and there has been situations where they have actually captured people responsible for it. A lot of the countries these people come from aren't very friendly to the U.S., and so from trying to have collective efforts towards capturing them is difficult. For that reason, we across the board don't allow data to be hosted outside of the United States for the same reason. If somebody gets a hold of it, there's not as many protections and laws and things we can do to get it back. So that's a great question. There's also the FBI closely tracks a lot of these ransomware gangs, and they're fairly familiar and in some cases have like infiltrated these groups and been part of them. So that's been some of the work to bring some of them forward. But this was just a couple days ago. They announced this $15 million. It's the first time I've seen the State Department like actually put a bounty on the head of like these groups to bring them forward. So. Okay. Well, I'll be here for a little while still, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to come chat. Thank you so much for coming today and joining me, and I much appreciate it.